for all intents and purposes, health-wise, family-wise? How's everything else going?
Well, it's tough after yesterday, but you got to move on. That's this business. It was a gut-wrenching game yesterday, and I'm proud of our players because that's a tough place to play, and obviously that team had a lot going on. They're back against the wall, but ultimately we came up short, and that's tough. But you have to move forward and try to continue to improve, and that's what we're going to do.
I was just going to ask you that too, Coach. Two very difficult, two emotional losses back-to-back here, and yet you're going to be playing for what could be the division lead this Sunday at University of Phoenix Stadium against Seattle. What is your message? What is your message going to be to your players this week?
Well, I think really what we talked about yesterday is we got to continue to work the way that we've been working. Obviously, we improved yesterday from the turnover standpoint, which is important. If we can continue to work to improve and eliminate mistakes, then we got a chance. I think if you look at the landscape going forward, we're one game back in our division. It didn't obviously the first 8 games go the way we wanted them to go, but we are one game back. And we got a number of division games and a number of home games left, and that's the most important thing. I think that we got to look at where we have to improve, but the last 2 weeks have been very difficult. We had a chance to win the game in the red zone 2 weeks ago against Tampa, and we didn't get it done. And then we had a chance this week to keep them from getting back into the game in the red zone, and we didn't get it done. And those are very difficult games when it comes down to the end like that. But it also says that those were, you can say what you want to say about Minnesota's record. They're a good football team. Tampa's obviously a good football team. Both were teams that we could very easily be sitting here with 2 more wins now than we had if we'd have made a play. So I think you have to look at it that way. I think what we're doing, how we're preparing, we've shown that that's worked for us, and we're going to continue that way. And, our guys will, if we continue to play hard and eliminate mistakes, we're going to win our share of games over this back half of the season and hopefully put us in good position.
You mentioned the environment up there. The crowd went from chanting "Fire Childress" in the second half to all of a sudden they were all fired up there at the end. And can you ever quantify how much momentum impacts a game, and how much of that had to do with what went down in the fourth quarter and beyond?
Well, we see it all the time at University of Phoenix Stadium. It's an important part of the game. We kept the crowd out of the game for the most part, but that Minnesota has good fans. They show up no matter what's going on and support their team. That was important for them at the end of the game. It was tough for us because of the noise. It fired up their team emotionally, and that's why it's so hard to win on the road, especially in environments like that. So, momentum plays a part in the game. There's no question about it, but you can stem the momentum by making one play. If we make one play there, I thought when Joey had the sack there on Favre and they took the 10-second run off, I thought, okay, well, maybe this is a play that made the difference in the game. But, you have to give that guy credit. He's shown consistently over the years that he's been successful doing that. And, it's tough. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but that's the NFL.
You're in the red zone with head coach Ken Whisenhunt with Doug and Wolf and sideline reporter Paul Calvisi. Last week you had expressed your frustration with the quarterback position. You said you got to get more production from that position. Well, now after this week, how did you feel about the performance of Derek Anderson?
It was better. We still got to continue to grow at that position. But as far as how we're doing things and making decisions, but I thought Derek made a couple of very good throws yesterday, managed the game well. There was a couple situations where we missed a couple of throws, which is what we have to continue to work on. But at the end of the game, when the protection was a little bit more difficult because of the noise, it's really unfair to kind of assess it. But I thought right before the half, when Derek made that throw to Larry down the sideline, and then we scored in that 2-minute drill, those are the kind of things that show me we're making moves in the right direction, because that was critical for us, and I thought he was operating well. So we'll build off of that and hopefully get to the point we need to get to offensively.
Wiz, you kind of mentioned it right there. At the end of the game, it looked like Minnesota kind of changed its approach to coming after you. Was that something that you noticed as well, obviously? Did they blitz more than what you expected them to?
It wasn't so much Wolf blitzing as it was single high coverage and man coverage. They were bringing 8 in the box to try to stop our run game, which was not something that they had shown before. It was not something that they played out of their scheme a little bit. And, at the end of the game, they were trying to get pressure. But listen, they have some good defensive ends. And when the noise it's hard, when the noise is the way it was, it's hard for our tackles to get off. And, that contributed to it as well. But it wasn't so much more blitzing. I mean, they did a little bit of it, and that's what they've done, but it was a lot more single high, bringing the extra safety in the box to try to stop the run game is what we were seeing yesterday.
You can go back 15 years when Brett Favre was beating the Lions in that playoff game when Sterling Sharp got behind the secondary. And he said after the game that he thinks he is better in those sort of situations where he's able to sort of ad-lib and there's chaos out there. I mean, is there something about him and his DNA that's where he flourishes in that sort of environment?
Well, I mean, there's been a number of quarterbacks throughout history that are good in different situations. I think that the one thing Brett Favre is he sees the field well, and when things are moving around out there, he can find the receiver, and he's got such a good arm and a quick release, he can get the ball to him. Now, sometimes that can work against you because you can try to make some of those throws which lead to interceptions or turnovers. But yesterday, he obviously was good in that environment. He made a couple of big throws and good plays for him, and you have to give him credit. The guy's been in the league for 20 years. He's a Hall of Famer. He's done that before. That he has a reputation for being good at the end of games, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have been able to stop him. That's what you have to look at too. We have to find a way to make our plays to keep them out, and that's what's so difficult is because whenever you get into a close game like that, it can go either way. It's always hard when you come out on the losing end.
Stay on that theme of your defense. What made you happy as you evaluated them, and what frustrated you?
Well, it was another interesting. I thought they were going to run Adrian Peterson a lot more at us. That's how I thought they would attack us, and they didn't do it very much at all. They came in trying to throw the football. Once again, our defense did a good job of getting turnovers, especially early. Very disappointing that Carey got the ball stripped going into the end zone. It's kind of like the payback from the first game of the year, the St. Louis game, where we did it to them. And that's the thing that if we had that 7 points, we wouldn't even be talking right now. But to get a turnover down there, stop them on the one, get a turnover down there again, there's obviously a lot of good things that we did. It's hard to come in today when they made some plays at the end of the game to win it. But, you got to look at where we are as a defense, and if we can continue to make those plays that we're making, and we got a lot of areas that we got to work to clean up. I think everybody does. Then, I think we're all a little disappointed because we didn't keep them out of the end zone. But, I'm also pleased with the way we stopped the run for the most part, for the most of the game, and the fact that we had some turnovers that led to some big plays for us.
Wiz, time of possession was really in favor of the Minnesota Vikings. They had an 11-minute disparity over you guys. How much do you think that impacted the defense near the end of that game? Do you think the defense was gassed, or it's time to suck it up?
Well, is that including the overtime period, Wolf?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so if that's the case, and I think they had it like 4 minutes in the overtime, then it's a 7-minute discrepancy, which is, I think that's tough. Obviously you don't want that to happen, but we started 2 drives inside of our 1-yard line, which is very difficult there. And, another one we started at our 7-yard line. So the field position battle yesterday was difficult for us. We kept trying to flip it, and we couldn't do that. And a lot of times when that happens, that's when it's going to lead to the discrepancy in time of possession. So, yeah, I'm sure that it's a factor, especially with some of the big chunks that they had at the end of the game, and with the way our guys had to run. But our guys work every week. We condition every week, and it's just it's difficult that they were able to stay on the field, especially right there at the end where we had the ball at the 1 and we had a chance to get a first down, which would have taken a little bit more time off the clock and given our defense a rest. But, I'm sure it contributed some to it, but also I think the flip side is you got to suck it up. In those kind of games, somebody's got to step up and make a play.
Has anybody made more progress from day one to now this season than Andre Roberts?
Boy, it's encouraging to see that, isn't it? I mean, I think when you look at our first 8 games and you think about all the plays that we've had, poor plays, negative plays, and you think about the fumbles, you think about the balls turned over here and there. And Andre, you remember back to the Oakland game where he was involved in that one, it was tough I think that was right. Was Andre in the Oakland game? Or
Mm-hmm.
I can't even remember. It seems like so long ago. But Andre had to play against Seattle a couple of weeks ago on return.
Yeah.
But it's really exciting to see young players start to get confidence and make plays like that, which he's done. He's done a fabulous job for us punt return wise, which was one of the reasons that we drafted him. There was a lot of talk about that earlier in the year about him being able to do it, and he solidified that, gotten a lot of confidence, but the contributions he's made offensively have been very good. Last week in Larry's touchdown, he made a very good block when we threw the speed screen out there to them. So there's some things that Andre is doing that I'm really excited about.
Talk about Beanie Wells. Did you kind of know most of the week you probably weren't going to be able to get a lot from him, or was it more of a game time thing?
It was more of a game time thing. I think, in looking at where he was with his knee and more specifically some of the reps that he didn't get this week, a lot of some of the things that we went to offensively yesterday involved our 3 wide receiver package and it involved protection because of what they were trying to do to us. And those were things that Beanie didn't get as many reps on during the week. So it was more a victim of how the game went and the fact that he didn't get a tremendous amount of work this week. So that was really what it was more about. And, I think that he'll get more reps this week and be more comfortable, and that'll take care of itself.
I've been dying to ask you this question ever since the last play where they scored the touchdown. They tied it up in regulation. I believe it was with 34 seconds to go, somewhere in there, a 25-yard pass. Brett Favre to Visanthe Shanko down the middle of the field. Was that a broken play? Because it looked like to me that Percy Harvin was running the exact same route. It looked like there were 2 post routes there.
Well, I think what they were doing is reading it. They were reading the middle of the field, and Visanthe Shanko took it down the middle of the field, and Percy Harvin also thought he could take it down the middle of the field. So he was actually over the top of them, but, it worked, so I'm sure they're not complaining about it too much today. It didn't look like it was the way it was supposed to come out. I think it was one of those routes where a couple of guys had to make reads, and
they made the same read.
They made the same read, and you sometimes when you're in that situation and things are going quickly and you're trying to get plays called, maybe one of them made a mistake, maybe he wasn't supposed to be there, but it looked to me like they both were reading the middle of the field. They both saw it open. They both tried to get over the top, and that's why it put them in the same area.
Tell us about Seattle. What do you need to do to get ready this week?
Well, I think the first thing is we can't lose our focus on the way we've been working in practice and preparing for opponents. This is definitely a hard thing to take when you lose 2 games like this over the last 2 weeks. But I think you have to focus on a lot of the improvements that we made in certain areas, and you got to correct our mistakes. I think that's the biggest thing. The thing you can't lose is your method of how you practice and how you prepare for opponents. Because if you look at where we are as a team, I know we're 3-5. It's not where we want to be, but we've been close in a lot of games. If you eliminate these turnovers, if you eliminate the mistakes, it could easily flip. The last 2 games is a good indication of that. It could very easily, we could have, with a play here, one more play here or there, we could have won both of those games. We'd be sitting here at 5-3 now, and it'd be a whole different perspective. So, the margins in this league are so close. You have to make sure that you continue to consistently prepare and work the way you have been doing, not let the distractions affect you, not let the disappointment affect you. Because, if we can do that, if we can continue to improve, if we can build on what we did offensively and not turn the football and play a little better, if we continue to make plays defensively like we've done, especially with some of the turnovers, the interceptions, then we're going to put a game together and we're going to play really well and we're going to feel good about ourselves, and that's what we need to do.
Good luck against the Seahawks.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach Ken Whisenhunt joining Doug and Wolf this morning here on Sports 620 KTAR.